What's up guys, Biscuit here, and we're on another episode of C++ for Idiots. I'll be going over functions. If you've ever went to 8th grade math, then you'd know what a function is. Basically, you input one variable, and its contents, like 27, and you send it through the function, and pops out like 38. Which is what goes in is your x-coordinate, what comes out is your y-coordinate. That's how you do graphs in math and stuff, if you've ever taken 8th grade courses. Or at least that's for me. Anyways, I'll be going over how you can make these in C++ today. If my voice is kind of gravelly, it's because I just woke up. I decided I have to do this because I haven't in a while. And yeah. Alright, so let's get started. From our last tutorial you can see our variables, and yeah, so I'm going to delete all this, and we're going to start afresh. Did I ever cover that? Okay. We'll cover that in the next tutorial. I'll keep that in mind. Okay, so to make a function, you need your return type. So for instance, mine is void. Basically, void means it returns nothing. And then your function name, so my function, your parameters, and then curly brackets, and that. Now you'll notice, hey, int main is a function. You'll be precisely right, Jimmy. Int main is a function, and that's why and int main is called first in the C code that C++ is written in. Okay, basically, C++ is a derivative of C, which is another language that's not class-based and doesn't have object-oriented programming. Basically what happens is the C module has a language on top of it where it's C++. In the int main, all that data from the int main goes into C and then it runs it. Got off track. So we want to print something in our function here. Hello from my function. Okay. And to call upon a function, okay. So what we did here, where we give it the curly brackets, is where we define, well, it's where we build our function, where we put the contents of what we want inside of it. Now, to run a function, you have to call upon it while it's built above where you're typing. Like, say if I was to call upon it here, then it wouldn't work because this is not defined yet. This is not built yet. Okay? So that's why we make it above main, but we'll figure out later, hey, we can put it below main, but we have to do a special way of doing it. Okay, so to call upon the function, you have to type the function name, and then parameters, and then a semicolon. Okay, so what we're doing here, what I'm calling these parameters is we'll be able to input variables into our functions and call it upon that way. Let's go ahead and run our program. It's compiling. Okay. So what happens here is my function is defined with a print inside of it, a cout. Hello from my function. And then we end the function with the curly bracket. And we enter into main, we call upon the function. And basically what that is running all the contents inside. So remember what I told you about the include IOStream? It's taking the file from IOStream and putting it right there. Think of when you're calling upon a function as it's putting all the contents of the function right there, and with the parameters, it's inputting the parameters into that. So if you have that down and you can write your own void function, we're going to go over the different types and how to return variables. But first, yeah, let's do that. So we can make void main, int main. We can make int my function into a we can give it a return type. Void means no return type, return nothing, or don't return at all. Int allows you to return variables. So is it with string, so is it with whatever. So any types that you learned in the last tutorial about variables, you can use in functions. You just have to return a variable with that variable type. So as to say, okay, so to return something, you type return and then a number or a variable that is the same return type as a return function. So let's say I have a variable called return var is equal to like 90, and we return the return var. So what that's doing is when we return, it's taking that 90 from return variable and putting it in the return operator and sending that out to here. So basically what we're doing here is we're doing nothing with the variable. But if I do this, because it's returning the thing, it's returning the variable, we'll get precisely hello from my function 90. Now, what is happening here? Well, when you return a variable, that variable is then what my function is equal to. So let's say, instead of printing it, we go and we just do that, but we make a variable called int var equal to my function. What happens here is my function it returns something. So that means that our int var can equal that function. Basically what's happening here is when you make something equal a function, it runs the function and then gets the return variable and sends it to var. Okay, this is pretty cool, huh? Because now you can get like random variables from random functions and use that. But this is not really important yet. Hold on, let's just print out to show that I'm not crazy. We'll get the same output from before because we're making variable equal my function. Okay, so this is kind of worthless right now because you can execute code from a function doesn't actually mean anything. Okay, sure, you can call a bunch of code at once from different points in your program without having to retype it all. But it kind of serves no purpose because we're not passing it any variables to do. Well, we can pass it variables. That's what the parameters are for. So if we define a variable inside the parameters, such as int input, this will get an error down here because too many arguments in the function to call, meaning we haven't sent it any information. So let's send it like 20. And you know what we're going to do? Instead of returning that, we can access this variable input. We're going to run it and then I'm going to explain what's happening. So as you can see, we get hello from my function, then 20. Okay, what happens here is our return is, okay, so it goes and grabs our function, sends this parameter into our function, and then our function returns the parameter, and our variable gets that parameter and then prints it out. Okay, so basically, what the parameters are is a variable that you can use to send information to the function. So let's build an add function. So int add, whoops, okay, so what we want to do is we want to have int a, int b. So basically what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, we have another variable after this that we want to use, and that's why we have a comma saying, hey, this is a list of variables we have in our program, and that's what we want to do, in our function. So now we're going to return a plus b, or we can make int out equal a plus b, then out. So yeah, what this does is we pass it two parameters, a and b, and then we say, hey, a and b is equal to out, but add them to each other, and then return it. Okay. I can already tell this tutorial is being a bit long, but whatever. So we're gonna make var equal add. Okay. Okay, so when you make parameters, as you can see, it has our parameters here, int a and int b. Oh, hit a comma to give it another parameter, it switches over to int b, makes it bold. This is quite interesting because we can make precise inputs of how we want to call our function. So let's make 2 plus 4. So here's what happens. We send 2 to the function, and whenever you are lining up variables, like say you have int a, int b here, and say you have int c here, it has to be where if you want your variable, if you want a to equal 2, you'd have to put it in the first parameter, or the one that matches it. So say int a, so in our function we have 3 parameters, okay? And we call upon it by inputting, hey, I want 3 to equal that, 2 to equal that, and I want 1 to equal that. Well, to do this, you'd have to call upon the function, and in the parameters, you'd have to do it in the exact order as you defined your variables, a and b. So it'd be like 1, 3, 4, 12, and 1, 2, 3. So that's going to send this to our function, and 1 is going to take that data. 1 is going to say, hey, you gave me some information. I'm going to send that into my function and use it. That's why 2, so right now if you apply that logic and we look at this, 2 is equal to a when we send that parameter into the precise exact one that we defined it. So if we change this to like 5, a is now equal to 5. Okay? So it's 9. Yep. So a is now equal to 5 and b is equal to 4 when we pass these into our function. Once we pass these into our function, the function takes the two variables, so a is now equal to 5 and b is now equal to 4. So out adds the 2, so 5 plus 4, and then returns 9. Okay? I hope you understand that with parameters, you can send it information, but you have to know how to format it. So, like, the way you define it is how you have to do it here. Or you could think of it in a way that you're passing 5 into here, and when you're doing that, a is equal to 5. Okay, now we got parameters done. Let's do something efficient with our functions, such as print out something. So if we cout a and put like a comma here, b, we can see our precise output. So you see we pass 5 into a, and we print out a, which a is equal to 5. If it wasn't equal to 5, I have no idea what's going on. But 4 is passed into b, and b is then printed out, so our output is 5, 4, because we print it out in a and b, a comma b. And we get 5 comma 4. Then we print out our output by making a variable equal the return. So basically what a return is, when you return something, nothing after it can be executed. So you can have something like here, like da 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 da. Like this says, like in a game, kill the player, give him God mode, give him infinite weapons, that sort of stuff. But it'll never get ran because you returned something before it. Whenever you return something, everything after it doesn't get executed. So, for example, right here we have return 0 in the main function. You can use the return in main to quit the program very quickly and efficiently from one point in memory, from one point in your code, by just typing return whatever variable you want to say, but I'd say -1 for like an error. If I do that, the program will stop immediately because we returned and nothing after this gets executed. And what this does is pause the console. It pauses the console, so it never gets ran. It's quite interesting, actually. So if I return a plus b before this, a plus b, and it will never print it out because all this never gets ran. All that never gets ran after the return. So think of it, whenever you call return, the function ends right there, right at that dead point. Think of it like that. Okay? Okay, so if you have functions down, then you're ready to move on to the next tutorial where we'll be going over global and local variables and how they're very beneficial to your program and how you should use them. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.